Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host Gershwan and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we continue talking about the civilians of the Warhammer 40K universe as we get into part 2. Now, before, in the last video, you guys were commenting that you would hate to live in the Imperium, but let's talk about some different types of worlds that you guys might enjoy living in. So let's get into 40 Facts about civilian life in the Imperium. A pleasure world, also known as a paradise world, and sometimes as a garden world, is the playground of the imperial nobility. They tend to be of outstanding natural beauty, and the population of such worlds are dedicated to pampering the important imperial visitors they often receive, such as members of major noble houses, members of the Navis Nobilite, planetary governors, important ecclesiarchical officials like confessors and cardinals, imperial commanders, rogue traders, and wealthy chartist captains. Pleasure worlds are often very cultured places, and many have huge proportions of their populace dedicated solely to producing works of art, music, or other forms of entertainment. Casino complexes, opulent restaurants, and huge ballrooms are often found on such worlds. There is a darker side to pleasure worlds, particularly those who cater to the tastes of the more depraved guests they received, and pleasure worlds often host one or more chaos cults dedicated to Slanesh, the Prince of Pleasure. Some pleasure worlds contain large developing cities and other major settlements. All pleasure worlds are considered a subset of the class of planet known as civilized world. Garden worlds hold a unique position within the Imperium in that they are one of a few kind of planets with minimal technological development. Tithes from these planets are often lower than usual or are entirely non-existent, as many are lightly populated and may have no ready available resources. Instead, garden worlds offer the Imperium a multitude of idyllic settings, ranging from recuperative locales to private estates, in exchange for protection. They are tranquil environments, though worrisome consideration still dangles like those threads on a beautiful tapestry. Some are rumored to have been ancient terraforming experiments from the dark age of technology, and could be unstable. Others are believed to be rediscovered after abating warp storms, and so could disappear again without warning. Still more are thought to be the lost homes of alien species, and be careful, for if the Xenos return, or reawaken, who knows what could happen. The vast majority of garden worlds are named for their unparalleled beauty and largely undeveloped surface. Though they have all the amenities the Imperium has to offer, they do not sacrifice the peaceful surroundings to accommodate more people. Many of these worlds are places of refuge and respite, while others are monasteries or training facilities. Regardless of their use, the basics of living engender the development of a mindset or lifestyle that supports what the world delivers. Healers develop new methods to aid the afflicted. Scholars and priests research or meditate on their texts and relics. Even some of the martial order have recognized the need for contemplation and reflection to better hone their impressive combat skills. Each of these outlooks, as well as many others, develops into a microculture that essentially becomes the commodity of the planet. Compared to the majority of other planets in the Imperium, garden worlds move at a different pace. While not necessarily slower in speed, the sense of urgency, or in some cases panic, found elsewhere rarely exists here. On most of these worlds, value is placed on being thorough and contemplative in all actions, weighing all possibilities and seeking the best from those available. Most natives have a relaxed flow to their lives, usually due to their planning and preparation. Since there is often very little internal or external conflict on these worlds, major changes in their schedule or plans seldom occurs. Though most of these planets are firmly part of the Imperium, others are privately owned or catered to by their clienteles. These worlds are often on the fringes of the lawful sector authorities and can exist outside the blessing of Terra. Those living here might hold much more relaxed views concerning imperial law, and the lifetime of dealing with the rich and powerful can hone their social skills to preternatural levels. Though the mindset of the community determines much of their behavior, many Garden World natives exude an almost eerie and unearthly sense of calm. They are for the most part methodical, but approach problem solving in a more holistic way, utilizing both hard analysis and intuition to complete their objective. They sometimes constitute some of the Imperium's finest envoys and orators, having an innate ability to put people at ease and connect with others. Garden Worlders are open people and expressive, but are equally skilled at keeping their emotions under control, temporarily to achieve whatever necessary goal. They do not relish this, however, and most make a point of finding a way soon after to proceed the emotional content before it finds new and unhealthy ways to manifest. With these skill sets, Garden Worlders make exceptional military analysts, healers, and diplomats throughout the Imperium. The Adeptus Administrarum frequently recruits from these worlds, and though the tithes of psychers are normally low in Garden Worlds, the quality of the recruits from these planets ensures that very few of them escape notice from the Scholastica Psychana. The Adeptus Ministorum has also found exceptionally talented scholars and priests on these planets and often maintains permanent base to find new clergy. Rogue traders who frequent such worlds often take the finest to become part of their crews, where their skills and calm discussion can aid in negotiations. Now let's jump to a different type of world. An agri-world is an imperial planet entirely dedicated to the production of agricultural products. Many planets in the Imperium, such as Forge Worlds and Hive Worlds, are completely incapable of sustaining the sheer number of people who live and work on them. To feed these people, as well as the vast armies of the Imperial Guard, many planets have been completely transformed into giant farms. Most of these planets have populations of less than 100 million people and possess only a few major cities. These farming planets, as they are known, are vital to the Imperium as a hive city. These planets are given over entirely to the production of food, which hive worlds cannot produce in sufficient quantities to keep their huge populations from starving. Many worlds have whole continents given over to livestock or fields of crops. Some agri-worlds are covered in oceans teeming with fish, and a few are far stranger. Worlds covered in edible fungus, scoured by swarms of nutritious insects, or are gas giants whose upper atmosphere layer are home to flocks of edible or egg-producing flying creatures. A few planets are used solely to provide clean water to nearby hive worlds. Agri-worlds are sometimes ruled directly by the Adeptus Administrarum, rather than by their own local government, to help ensure that their produce is grown and harvested with maximum efficiency. Those who toil on agri-worlds provide the Imperium's countless billions of subjects one of their essential resources, food. The Adeptus Administratum classifies planets in this task, often based on their desirable climate, native livestock, or other natural factors. On other agri-worlds, artificial aspects dominate, such as sheltered hydroponic lakes, floating fields suspended in hollowed-out planetoids, or algae vats buried deep within the aerated mountains. In all cases, their population are devoted to a single cause, feeding the Imperium. Even the slightest crop failure or livestock plague can doom other worlds to horrific starvation or collapse in Imperial warfront, thus making their often overlooked efforts vital for humanity's survival. Though agri-worlds are each devoted to growing and gathering foodstuffs for a ravenous Imperium, each is unique in the way it goes about doing this, as well as the actual item it produces and exports. Many rely on staples, as these are relatively simple to grow, store, manipulate, and process into a variety of forms for human consumption across the galaxy. Some concentrate on rarer items and delicacies that can only be produced on that planet, foods bound for the table of the connected and powerful. In time, most become renowned for certain exports, as Kalto is for Potanis rice, or Cell is for its Muxhagen. Few agri-worlders, however, share in these bounties from their cultivated fields or packed corals, and often live on discarded grains or meats unsuitable for processing. Agrarian workforces can be anchored to working a single field, often developing such devotion to their produce that new religious sects can spring up like the plants they grow. Others might continually travel the surface, following the local growing seasons to descend like attacking armies on fields ripe for harvest, and scouring the landscape to remove every morsel of grain, stock, or other edible life. More voracious than any swarm, they leave behind nothing but barren soil before marching off to eradicate the next territory. On some planets, especially where there is a strong Adeptus Mechanicus presence, laborers with bionic scythe limbs might work alongside monotask harvester servitors, while combat servitors patrol the fields and use their heavy stubbards to discourage marauding creatures. Produce fields vary in size and shape, including precisely designed fields based on ancient decrees, patterns to venerate revered saints, or wild forms based on the seasonal whims of their rulers. Some fields are not on land at all, such as plankton farms that reap the oceans, or underground fungi caverns. Other agri-worlds instead specialize in livestock creatures, from the ubiquitous groks to the unique native beasts that cannot thrive anywhere else. Like the flora, these need to be terrestrial, and could include gargantuan sea beasts larger than starships, or sky-blackening clouds of protein-rich insects. In some cases, these planets might import base fodder, or cultivate hydroponic algae and vat-grown lech, just to feed their fauna, until the beasts are harvested. Working on an agri-world, no matter its produce, is harsh and remorseless. There are always fields to till, crops to tend, harvest to conduct, or beasts to oversee. Even in artificial pastures, algae vats must be seeded and skimmed for their precious yields in continual cycles. This subservience to natural processes breeds stronger individuals who readily apply their muscles to any problem. It is somewhat rare for them to leave their homeworld, but those who do can find many new uses across the Imperium. Agri-worlds often supply the bulk of the Imperial tithes in edible produce rather than manpower, given their relatively low population and the importance of their exports. Still, the Imperial Guard is known to draw in agri-world natives, especially in times of invasion of nearby planets. Some agri-worlders might develop an affinity for machinery after much experience working with autoscythes and harvester crawlers, and could be noticed for recruitment into the cult Mechanicus. The ecclesiarchy calls to others from their years spent intoning prayers for successful harvests. The endless tabulations of harvest output, seed usage, or other essential organizational recordings can indicate a talent perfectly suited for the Adeptus Administratum and a vital posting anywhere across the Imperium. The curse of mutation is also present, though less often confronted and eradicated. Agri-worlds with low population densities allow the afflicted to more easily hide deformities or elude watchful eyes. One of the most notable domesticated animals used on agri-worlds is the grox. The grox is a large, fast, and aggressive reptilian animal, originating from the Solomon system. When the star system was absorbed into the Imperium, it was discovered that the animal possessed many useful traits, such as the ability to survive in almost any environment and to thrive on even the most indigestible food. Grox meat itself is also extremely tasty and nutritious, and nearly every single part of the beast is edible. The only drawback to the grox is their aggressive and vicious temperament. They will usually charge any creature in sight, including other grox. They are also large, fast, and dangerous creatures, about 5 meters long and well muscled. They are territorial and like their privacy, so attempting to herd grox together would easily drive them into a range. The solution is to lobotomize most of the stock, while keeping the breeding animals suppressed with electropulsers wired directly into their small brains. Even with these precautions, accidents still happen, and grox are usually kept on agri-worlds and isolated from human settlements. And those were 40 facts about pleasure worlds and agri worlds, and a little bit more on what life is like on those planets. Pleasure worlds are not so bad. I wouldn't mind living on a pleasure world. Of course, we're not done. We're going to be talking about some more worlds, and we're also going to be talking more about life on those worlds. So please subscribe to the channel. If you have any suggestions as to what topics you guys would like to hear about the Warhammer 40K universe, please comment them down below, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.